warm up probably every week just to allow people to come online and say hello and just kind of going. So let me tell you how this is going to work. Rodrigo Philho just said, say my name. So during the actual show, I am not. I got So it looks like I'm reconnected now. Great, my first live show, and it's screwing up. But that's okay, because we're going to plow forward and go on with everything. So, it's almost time. So I hope everybody's doing good. Thanks for the compliments, and thanks for the encouragement to everybody, especially John, JNBP, Garrett Card Cutter, all did a great job of encouraging me to do this and try to make a show that's going to be fun. So here we go. Welcome to the premiere episode of Beyond Cardboard, where we're going to be talking every week to someone different in the YouTube card community. I'm going to interview a different person, and the idea here is to allow everyone to get to know each other a little better, to just have a regular discussion with somebody else, because one of the favorite things that I hear people enjoy is collaborative videos. And so what we're going to do is break this down into four segments where I'm going to interview a fellow YouTube person. I've got my daughter here. She's going to be watching your comments. So I want everybody to start asking questions once you hear who it is, who our guest is tonight. And she'll be looking for them because we're going to have an audience question section. So right now, I'm going to introduce our guest. He needs not a lot of introduction. A lot of you know him. When I first started, turn the volume up. On the phone. Oh, okay. When I first got into YouTube, I got to meet this guy. We've never met in person, but he was the first guy that reached out to me and really touched base and talked to me on the phone and just really became a great friend. And I just really appreciate him as a collector. I appreciate what he collects, and I appreciate what a good guy he is. And he's also a newly minted, newly elected member of the inaugural class for the YouTube Hall of Fame, and it's Ray from Philly. Ray, how you doing?
Oh, thanks for having me on, Mike. I'm honored and privileged to be on the first episode.
Well, you are a first for sure, my friend. Good to have you. Thanks for being here. So my idea, Ray, is we're going to do a 30-minute show. So I'm going to just go through the different sections that I have. We're going to have cardboard questions. Let's do that first. So why don't you talk about how you got started in collecting? How old were you when you started?
I was 12 years old. It was 1979. And my grandfather bought me my first pack of cards. It was a 1979 Topps. And you know, when I started collecting those cards, I didn't use shoe boxes. I used my grandfather's cigar box and put the cards in there. And the next year, in 1980, I stumbled upon the first ever baseball card magazine, which I have that magazine. I've shown that on my YouTube channel. And on that magazine, there was an ad in there from a company in Maryland called Ben's Collector's Den.
I remember that.
And that's where I stumbled upon binders and sheets and started picking the cards out of the boxes. And my second year Topps was 1980, and my favorite set of all time. And then start putting cards in binders, and then from there it just took off, and I was hooked and addicted.
Who won the World Series in 1980?
That would be the fighting Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, I bet that got you kind of going. Are the Phillies your favorite team by far?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have any other teams that you like and follow?
In baseball, the Oakland A's, because they have an affiliation with, of course, being from Philadelphia. My grandfather, who was a humongous Philadelphia A's fan, he was a big Jimmy Fox fan, and he got me very much involved into the history of the Philadelphia A's. And a lot of people said, you know, that when the A's left, the wrong team left because the Phillies were a dreadful team for a lot of decades, and the A's were a dynasty team. You know, they won three World Series, I think in 1909, 1910, 1911, then 29, 30, 31. And then they moved to Oakland, and they won 3 World Series in the 70s, and they were in 3 again in the late 80s. And, you know, he just, the history of him talking about Connie Mack and Jimmy Foxx and Eddie Plank and Lefty Grove and all those great Philadelphia A's teams, you know, got me really interested. And we have they had a museum here in Philadelphia called the Philadelphia A's Historical Society Museum, which I have gone to see and looked at the history of the old Philadelphia A's. And so, you know, my follow a lot here in Major League Baseball is the Oakland A's because of the history that when they originally started in Philly.
Cool. Well, we all know who your favorite player is. It's Michael Jack Schmidt. We all know that.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. Any other players that you admire, past or present, that you like?
Well, from that era, I wasn't a big Pete Rose fan when he played for Cincinnati. In fact, I hated him until he came to Philadelphia. And boy, did I like him quick in a hurry, because those Phillies teams in the mid-'70s, you know, were a very good team. They had a lot of young players that all came up at the same time. Bob Boone, Larry Bowa, Greg Luzinski, Mike Schmidt. But nobody wanted to take the helm of being the leader on that team, because they were all players that were all the same age and came up at the same time. They needed that player to come in and take over, that had experience winning, that had leadership capabilities, that could lead a team to get over the hump, because the Phillies won 3 straight division titles in 76, 77, and 78, but couldn't win in the playoffs. And then when Pete came over in 1980, you know, he pretty much just said, follow me, guys, and I'll take it. And he did. And
Right.
He made Schmidt a better player, which Schmidt totally credits Pete Rose. So during that time, the players that I idolized quite a bit, I would have to say, would be Mike Schmidt. I also really was a big fan of Reggie Jackson and George Brett, Robin Yell, and Pete Rose. Currently, you know, I admire guys that are just superb athletes on the field, like an Albert Pujols and Mike Trout and Jose Altuve. I mean, those guys look like they have the it factor that they can, you know, they have the it factor in the hobby and they have the it factor on the field. But I'm still a vintage guy at heart, so for the most part, I collect a lot of the guys from the 70s and 80s when I grew up. So.
Right. Well, I'm going to kind of move on quicker.
Okay.
Because we got 4 segments to go through, Ray, and I've got 30 minutes to do this. But
Okay.
I will tell you or ask you 2 more questions about your cardboard. Then we'll get to the Beyond Cardboard section. And that's,
right.
You know, what is your dream item? Like, what would you love to own? Like the one item. And don't say the Ron Lewis poster.
Darn it, because that's what I was going to say.
I know. Hey, I'm looking at a Ron Lewis poster right now in my room. It's right here.
I know. I had that poster at one time. What I would have to say besides that is, if it's memorabilia item, I would have to say anything signed by Mickey Mantle. If it was a glove, a jersey, a hat, anything signed by the Mick, or Joe DiMaggio, because, you know, they're iconic players from our past. And
right.
There's only a certain amount. I mean, if I had to put the Mount Rushmore of players up there, you know, it's Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and DiMaggio and Mantle. Not that I'm a Yankees fan or anything like that, but those are the guys that, you know, anything from any one of those players, especially Mickey Mantle, is something that I would absolutely treasure, an autographed jersey or whatever from Mick.
That's a good question.
I know. I saw.
So we're watching some of the questions come up, because I want everybody to be asking questions that they want to ask for Ray. The third segment we're going to do tonight is audience questions, and I'll be doing this every week with somebody from the YouTube community, and I'm going to try to alternate between kind of guys that have been around a while and some newer people. So really excited about what we're doing here with this show. Ray, again, I'm with Ray from Philly, and Ray, thanks again for joining me. My last question on the cardboard side is, what current or former player, since obviously baseball is your favorite sport, who would you like to have a beer with? Like, if you could go back and have a beer with anybody, who would it be?
Past, I would have to say Mike Schmidt, because...
Well, he's still alive. You could go have a beer, theoretically, with Mike Schmidt.
I could, yeah, I definitely could. And I've met him quite a few times. I mean, I would love to go back to hang out with, Billy Martin or Mickey Mantle and talk about the crazy, wild times of him and Whitey Ford and Mickey Mantle, and just hear the stories of the three of them hanging out, which, there's been legendary stories talking about Billy Martin and Mickey Mantle, not Roger Maris, but Billy Martin, Mickey Mantle, and Whitey Ford. Just to be a fly on the wall to hear some of them stories would be,
for sure.
More books written about that. So yeah, definitely either one of those guys, I would love to go back in time and just sit and hear the numerous amount of stories they probably have to tell.
No doubt. All right, I'm going to move on to the next section tonight, which is really what this show is called. Most people know you, Ray, and know what you collect, and probably have heard even some of those stories, but what I'm going to ask you now is kind of some beyond cardboard questions, which is a way for us to really get to know people in the community beyond our collecting aspect. So where did you grow up, Ray?
I grew up in the suburbs right outside of Philadelphia in a town called Upper Darby, Pennsylvania.
Like, as in Steve Garvey?
No, Upper Darby.
Darby. Or Darby?
D-A-R-B-Y.
Yep. Okay, gotcha.
Darby.
Darby. Thank you. My producer is assisting us in knowing what you're saying. And what do you do for a living, buddy?
Currently, I'm the medical biller for a medical billing company, billing patients out for their hospitalization bills.
That's a good question.
That's a good question, yeah.
I'm a medical biller.
So we're getting some good questions, Ray. I don't know if you're following along with the chat, but we got some good questions coming from the audience that I'm going to be able to give you here shortly. That's actually a really good question.
Stop reading them. It's my job.
Oh, sorry. I'm reading them, and my producer is yelling at me. Are you married, Ray?
No, I'm not.
No. So all you single ladies out there, Ray from Philly is available. I know you have 2 kids. You have a daughter and a son. Why don't you tell everybody how old they are and everything?
I have a daughter who's 18, and my son, that's everybody has seen on my videos. Ray is 10 years old. Great.
And yeah, Ray, the fact that you involve Ray in your collecting is something that I think endears a lot of people to your channel. For me, I have a son too. A lot of us have kids, and it's just awesome to see you involve them. I'm involving my daughter in this video, so in this live show. So what sports did you play when you were younger?
I played baseball. I did actually play semi-pro baseball, American Legion, which, some people will call it equivalent to lower single A. But I played Little League Baseball, Babe Ruth Baseball, high school, and American Legion baseball. Tried out for American Legion for Upper Darby when I was 16 years old, and the age group for that was from 16 to 19 years old, and I was the only 16-year-older that made the team, and I was really honored to be on that team. And I started out on the bench, and in American Legion, they had like Little League World Series tournaments, and we got to the playoffs for that year when I was 16, and I was just like, I was the only 16-year-old, so that means I had to ride the bench. And the starting third baseman, who was kind of like a senior on that team, was his last year playing, 19 years old, got hurt. So I was asked to come in and start the rest of the season playing third base for that team, which was a lot of fun, major experience. I always wanted to be like Schmidt, playing third base, playing for the Phillies, but playing for any team. But I played in high school and always as far as American Legion.
Okay.
And I played basketball as well.
What position, real quick? What'd you play?
For baseball or basketball?
Baseball. Well, I know you're short.
Third base.
Because you're only 6 foot, shorty. You played third base. Okay, good.
Third base.
Besides baseball cards, or collecting in general, not just baseball cards, but what hobbies did you have growing up, and what hobbies do you have now?
As far as, well, I always collected in sports memorabilia, but I dabbled a little bit with comic books back in the mid-'80s, Marvel, DC Comics. You know, and as far as right now, besides collecting baseball cards, I do like to dabble a little bit with historical type of items. I always get intrigued by seeing friends of mine that's gone to auctions and will find certain letters written by certain politicians or presidents. You know, I'm a big history buff, so I love seeing things that are back for American history. I watch a lot of the History Channel as well. So anything involving history, historical nature, I do like to collect certain things.
Okay.
My grandfather got me involved with a lot of that as well.
Awesome. Ready to do some questions from the audience? Are you ready for it?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Jessica, why don't you ask Ray the first question?
Okay, Ray. How do you say this? DVITOC?
DVITOC. DVTalk.
DVTalk is asking...
He wants to know about my 500 home run club.
Yes, about your...
Do you want to tell him the
lithograph.
sad story about the lithograph, what you found out?
Well...
Because you and I talked about this today, so...
I've talked about it ad nauseum today with a lot of people. I've talked the story about, you know, the most treasure item I ever had since I've been collecting for over 30 years was the 500 Home Run Club Ron Lewis poster. And I originally had the first one, the big one, that I bought in 1990. It took me 7 years to get signed, and then regrettably I ended up selling it in 2004 because I was slowly starting to get taking a break from the hobby at that time. Well, after thinking about it recently, when I had to relive that moment, I started looking and thinking about, you know, possibly buying the other version of the Ron Lewis poster of the 500 Home Run Club, which I did purchase on eBay recently, about a week and a half ago. And I did a video of it last night. And then I got hit up by a couple of YouTubers that were nice enough to let me know that they thought from their experiences that this was not a legitimate item. And I looked into it and did more research of the authenticator company, which I'm not going to get into who the authenticator was or where I bought it from, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a real item. So I took it off my wall. I shut down the video that I posted last night, contacted eBay, and they looked into it for me, and I am getting a refund on the item. So the moral of the story is buyer beware when it comes to buying autographs out there. Try and stick with the legitimate so-called, I would say, top two authenticator companies out there, and that would be PSA or JSA.
Yeah.
Once you start getting into the smaller authenticator companies that just don't have the reputation, you know, you're playing with fire and you're playing with your own risk. So it was another learning experience there. Thank God eBay's working with me on that, and looks like the problem has been solved on that.
Yeah, but no one wants that. Happens to the best of us. It's happened to me before. I bought several items that have ended up being fake, and it's always like, why? You just feel kind of violated, right? I mean, you spend your hard money and things, and just kind of sucks. But sorry about that. Got our next question coming up. You ready for it, Ray?
Yeah.
All right, Jessica, let him have it.
Does Ray collect Prewar at all?
You collect Prewar at all?
Yeah.
Who's that from?
That is
1933 Galaxy.
Vintage Cards.
Vintage Cards is asking that question.
Yes, I started a 1933 Gowdy Hall of Fame set. I have the 33 Gowdy Paul Wainer. Now, I just got into this recently this year. So I'm looking into I got the Paul Wainer card. I got Wade Hoyt as well. And I'm looking to further. I'm not going to get the whole set. There's just too many cards. But I will want to get the Hall of Famers from the 33 Gowdy set. And then I'm also looking at the 36 Gowdy set, which, is a very small set. I mean, you can do the whole set for only 25 cards, I think, are in that set. But there's a lot of great cards before pre-war that, you don't have to go crazy and break the bank. 36 Gowdy is one of them. 33 Gowdy could be costly, but there's certain ones out there that you can get that are fine and won't kill you. And 36 Gowdy is probably one of them.
Right. Well, the 33 Gowdy, only has a few Ruths and Gehrigs and,
yeah, just a couple of big-time Ruths are in there.
Dizzy Dean's rookie card, I think, is in that set. I mean, it's got some pretty stout folks. All right, here comes another question. You ready?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to new people coming on YouTube?
And I think that's from Snoop.
Yeah, sorry. I keep forgetting to say that. It's from Snoop.
Yeah, that's from Snoop. The advice I would give is make sure you show that you're having fun on the channel, on your videos, on your channel. Make sure that you keep the people interested. Listen to advice if people are giving you advice of what they would like to see. Show stuff that you're pretty sure you're in touch with the community and you know what they like and what they don't like. So try and, keep the content going. Show stuff that's going to be interesting. The videos, try not to keep them too long because people have a tendency to just the attention span. With people's schedules, it's really tough. You can't make videos that are 20 minutes long. Sometimes you can, depending on what you're doing. But for the most part, kind of keep them short, keep the people entertained, and try and show yourself to it sometimes. Instead of just showing the card, it's also good to show your face because that gives a one-on-one persona, personal connection with you and your community so they can put a face to who's talking, and they feel like they're connecting with you a lot better.
Well, you could, I wouldn't know Aaron Davis if he came up and punched me in the face. He has the prettiest hands on YouTube for sure, but, he, doesn't show, and that's okay. It's not that you have to. It just does allow you to connect a little bit more with your audience, but to each his own. You can be successful on YouTube like Aaron has. While we're waiting on the next question for Jessica to ask, make sure you slug that like button that you're enjoying this. If you're enjoying it, keep writing those comments, and I appreciate everybody tuning in. We're at around 40 people, Ray, are wanting to hear about you. They just want to know about you, Ray. So what's our next question, Jessica?
Ray, which cards do you think don't belong in the 300 greatest baseball cards of the 20th century book?
And who wrote that book?
Binks. The comment.
I think Giuseppe might know who the author. I think it's Mike Payne.
Or is it? Oh, it's right up there.
Bing Scott wrote that comment, by the way.
Bing Scott wrote that comment. So who do you think? Yeah. What cards do you think? Because you and I both collect this set. Ray and I both collect it.
Mike Payne.
Who has more cards in that set, Ray?
I think that would be you.
That would be me, but that's okay. This is about you. But there are obviously some quirky cards in that set by Mike Payne.
Right.
What do you think doesn't belong?
In my opinion, they have cards on there that they try and depict, and a lot of my friends of mine don't understand they think it basically should be of just rookie cards or just of Hall of Famers. And that's not what the whole premise of what Mike Payne is trying to do. Some of the cards are from iconic moments. In case in point, the 89 Upper Deck
Kirk Gibson
card of the World Series.
Right.
That's considered to be one of the great cards because that moment of Gibson hitting that homer is folklore now. It's part of history. Is it a great player? Is he a Hall of Famer? No. Mark Fidrich rookie card. He's not a Hall of Famer. But that season that he had in 1976 was, they've done stories on it, 30 for 30, and they've done, documentaries on it on the MLB network about how unbelievable how this guy came out of lightning out of a bottle, and what kind of a season he had. As much as I love the Kurt Bavacqua bubblegum stamp card, and I questioned as to why that card was in there. Kurt Bavacqua was a mediocre player at best, but there was a moment in time where, there was a TV show with great Joe Garagiola on, and that episode was one of the biggest episodes they had on NBC Sports that year. So that became on there. So I try to explain to a lot of people, it's not Hall of Famers, because some people have asked me, why are you doing that set? It's not all rookies. It's not all Hall of Famers. Why are you buying the 89 Upper Deck Kirk Gibson or the 76 Topps Oscar Gamble just because it has a big afro? There is just certain cards in there that depict a certain moment in time, a certain event. Why is the 68 Gibson in there instead of his rookie card? Well, the rookie card is in there, but the 68 Topps Gibson is in there because of the kind of season. There's certain seasons that a player had.
Right.
It's not just his rookie card. He could have did something momentous that year.
The 68...
he broke the Babe Ruth record.
The 68 Denny McClain's in there, too, which is, the same reason. Because 68 had Gibson and McClain, and they battled it out in that, epic World Series in 68. They both had amazing years. Won the Cy Young. Right. So, I hate to cut you off, buddy, but we are running low on time. And... Okay. I want to keep this at 30 minutes if we can. So I've got rapid fire. Here comes a little rapid fire questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I want you to answer these as quick as you can for everybody. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Yes, I'm going to post this when it's done. But right now, we got some rapid fire. All right. You ready, Ray? Let's see where we're at here. I'm trying to reconnect. It looks like during rapid fire, I get disconnected. Now I think I'm back up. And these are rapid fire, so you can't take a long time to answer. What's your favorite movie franchise?
Movie franchise? The Rocky series.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yes.
What was your first car?
1974 Chevy Malibu.
Okay. 1974. That car was a year old when I was born. I was a year old when that car came out. Good grief.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. Do you wear a tie to work?
No, I do not.
Okay. What's your favorite chick flick?
Favorite chick flick? Now this is really putting me on the spot. I don't have a favorite chick flick.
That's right. That's the correct answer. That was the curveball tonight. I'm going to throw a curveball every time during rapid fire because you shouldn't have a favorite chick flick. You're a guy.
That's right. Who would have a favorite chick flick?
And my final Ray from Philly rapid fire question, and we'll finish the night. Best cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Which one is it?
Oh, God, I would have to say Jim's Steaks. Not Pat's, but Jim's.
Okay. Well, there you have it, guys. There's our premiere episode of Beyond Cardboard. Appreciate everybody tuning in, watching. Keep collecting.